Welcome everyone to, this is about the seventh episode or session of the P3 Utah Impact Hub Salt Lake Benefit Company series for 2021. We have a special sponsor for the fall series, which we'll get to in a moment here. I want to welcome those of you that have found this. It's a recording of legacy content to share. I hope everyone does going forward. But this is a special program because it's a lot of the other sessions focused on benefit companies, benefit LLCs, benefit corporations. But what I wanted P3 Utah to go on the record showing is that some of the companies I think that are doing the best work in sustainability, in making the triple bottom line a real way to do business, the real pioneers showing the way, are actually larger companies that don't necessarily get involved with the legal adjustment to be a benefit company, but they have very strong triple bottom line values. And what's really important from a P3 Utah perspective is not what kind of legal structure you have, but your outcomes and your values. Because if you are actively trying to manage against certain values with certain guidelines, you're going to produce outcomes that make a better world. And US Synthetic and Varex Imaging are two of the leaders in this regard, and we're going to get into that today. I'm really thrilled. Chance, let's look at the next screen really quickly here. So again, this is, it's the sixth session, and then you see that next month we're going to talk to another larger company that has been working on sustainability, probably not as long as the two companies we're featuring today, but moving pretty strong, and that's Young Living. That's on October 28th, and information on that will be in our newsletter. Let's go to the next slide, please. And I want to thank Chance Thompson, the designer, and I think he's kind of equivalent to a CEO or team captain for a new company called VIRIDESCENT that's helping us tell sustainability stories. And I don't want to misrepresent what they're doing, but it's truly wonderful and interesting. There may be some viridescent flavor thrown into our presentation today at the half-hour mark and 60-minute mark. We're gonna have to wait and see if we are pleasantly surprised with a viridescent moment. It could happen, but VIRIDESCENT's helping us with hosting and recording these sessions during the fall of 2021, and it really makes this work for a small volunteer-run organization like P3 Utah. So thank you to Chance Thompson and his team at VIRIDESCENT. Let's go to the next slide if we could. And maybe Chance sometimes is off doing other things. So I don't know if we can go to the next slide. We'll try. There we are. Let's see. Gosh, did we miss the slide that showed the two speakers today, Chance? Was that the one before? I wonder if it got dropped out of the deck. There it is. I just wanted to quickly go over this slide to introduce our speakers. Today we have Jordan Larson. I'm going to try to read your short title here. This is Jordan's short title: Global Facilities Engineering, Sustainability, and Real Estate Manager for Varex Imaging. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you.
And shorter title, but every bit as heavy a workload as Landen, Garner, Director of Engineering Good. And we put CSR there for those who want to see the equivalency, corporate social responsibility. Landen works for US Synthetic, which looks like SV, but it should be an SY. I think the tail got cut off your Y there, but we'll mention it again later. Welcome, Landen.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're gonna, believe it or not, I am gonna let these two gentlemen do most of the talking once we get past the next couple of slides. If we could go to slide number 6. These are the topics of today. Let's kind of start here. We have slides that have been offered by Landen and Jordan. Let's go to that next slide if we could. And I want to start out, I'm gonna pick on Jordan. Jordan, I would like for you to kick us off by talking about kind of how you came to be doing sustainability. There's reference of your father on this slide, but kind of how you came to be doing sustainability and kind of the big picture of how do you view sustainability in the triple bottom line at Varex Imaging?
Well, thanks, Steve. So I kind of got voluntold into sustainability about 12 years ago. I had been working as project manager in construction and shifted positions and changed companies and started doing project management for, then it was Varian Medical Systems. And as we got working on different sustainability projects, it became very clear to me that as much as I loved the environmental piece and aspect of it, it really, if there wasn't a decent number tied to the project, it was really hard to sell. And so the concept of the triple bottom line of the people, planet, profit became very real. And it suddenly made sense to me that, you know, being environmentally sound and smart and being a sustainable company goes hand in hand with being a profitable business. And a profitable business typically helps people. So it revolves very nicely all together. There's still a lot of companies that see sustainability as a side project that's typically run up by a millennial that has an environmental concern or something, but it's growing. And the interest and concern is significantly stronger now than it was 12, 13 years ago. When we started this, and I already mentioned this, but well, you mentioned it, my dad. So my dad is 90 years old. He's a child of the Depression. And he was the first person to ever really teach me sustainability in the mentality of, anytime we left a room, it was, you turn the lights off. You don't leave the water running while you're brushing your teeth. If we're in a hot summer, you don't need to water the lawn all the time. And for him, it was not necessarily so much being a conservationist or watching, it was watching the bills. It was, a family with 6 kids and every penny counted. And when you're trying to run a business, every penny counts. And a lot of the times utilities is something that gets overlooked as something that impacts the bottom line, really simple and really fast. We're a very large electricity user in Salt Lake City. Rocky Mountain Power and I are on a very first name basis. To the point that, anytime we can put in a project that saves electricity, it typically happens because it's a good savings, and it's the triple bottom line.
Fantastic. Do you want to take well, you can cover it after the next slide. Let's go to the next slide then. And Landen, I'm going to ask you the same kind of question. Talk about how you came to do what you're doing, but try to take it a little further and use your slide and talk about, how you kind of view sustainability and strategy. I think you talk about it in a very unique way here, but I think here's where you talk about the triple bottom line. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Landen Garner, and I've been here at US Synthetic for 13 years now. And how I got kind of involved in this, corporate social responsibility kind of career path was that we have a great culture about how to empower and build problem-solving capability within our employees, but also how do we share and leverage that skill set into our community to build a strong and self-reliant community. And part of my role here was the employee development and organizational behavior programs within our organization to help enhance those skills with our employees. And then we found, how do we get involved in the community? And we've said, well, why don't we just leverage the same type of culture that we're trying to build within our organization when it comes to building problem-solving skill and capability to build a strong business. Let's just do the same thing and leverage and maximize that in the community to build a strong community. And we have a really big emphasis on the value of the skill of problem solving and what it can do to build and develop individuals, but also a business, a community, groups, all across different levels and different sizes. And we find that problem solving skill is very valuable for, individuals, groups, teachers, students, businesses. And when we build and develop problem solving skill, we can bring prosperity to all of us. And so that's kind of the mindset of kind of how I got involved in now doing this full time, not just within our organization of developing the skill set within our organization, but also how do we now leverage that into the community. And when US Synthetic was organized and started by our founder named Lewis Pope back in 1978, he wanted to start a business that would help provide a good lifestyle for his family and create opportunities for him and his family. And then as the business was growing and he's starting to hire, more and more people, he realized their desires were no different than his desires. We all kind of wanted the same thing, this idea of creating opportunities for our families and for our posterity. And so the vision kind of came to be for US Synthetic is improving lives. And so now it's kind of try to paint a picture on that. What does bring that to life? What does improved lives really mean? And to help us kind of understand that for our business is asking questions such as what matters most to us? Why do we work so hard? And what we've found is there's a very common theme that it comes down to our families. That's why we work so hard. And that's really what matters most to us is our families and creating opportunities for our families to grow and develop. We've even gone and done some mission trips to third world poverty-stricken villages all around the world. And all these same types of discussions, why do you guys work so hard? And what values do you guys have in your community? And again, they say the same thing. We want to create opportunities for our families. And so it's one thing that can really bond us together in the world is that we all ultimately want the same thing. And when we have that type of a vision, what the power that can come behind that, for what we've seen at US Synthetic is that our personal vision and the company's vision can now become one and the same vision. And there's a lot of power that can come when you have that type of a mindset and perspective. And but we do realize that we're not a nonprofit charity organization. We are a for-profit organization. And so if we really want to improve lives, we've got to have a means or a way to be able to do that. And so if you walk through this kind of visual up here, right underneath Improved Lives is being a leader in diamond solutions. And so that's our technology is we have diamond technology that provides solutions for all sorts of different industries, more specifically with the oil and gas industry, providing diamond cutters for oil and gas exploration throughout the world. And the better we are at being the best in our diamond solutions and providing that value to our customers, the more profitable we can be. And with more profits and more resources, that means we can impact and improve that many more people's lives. And so that's the perspective we have. But one way that I kind of like to help kind of keep things to create a different kind of paradigm is that we're really in the business of improving people's lives. It just so happens that we make diamond technology as well. And it just helps kind of flip that perspective of that. That's really what we're trying to achieve here. And it just so happens that, if we do really good at providing that value with our diamond technology to our customers, then that's that many more people that we'll be able to impact and improve people's lives. And so we have different ways that we can understand and see that with, as you see through this visual of what do our customers want, and are we winning or losing when it comes to delivering upon those values? And down on that bottom level, you can see on the business values, we have things such as like the environment and making sure that we're being good, responsible citizens of our environment. Profitability and growth actually crosses both the customer values and the business values. We want our customers to be profitable and they are growing as well as we are as a business. And it creates a win-win situation if we both are profitable and we both are growing. And so when you talk about the three, P3, the people, planet, and profit, it kind of comes down to this idea, profit is a big deal for us because the more profits that we have, the more impact that we're going to have of improving lives. And there's stakeholders up there under the word improve lives. You have employees, the customers, suppliers, shareholders, and communities. Is all of us are a piece of that. And how do we improve lives in all those different stakeholders? But if we're, destroying the planet and being disrespectful to our people when we're trying to achieve that, then we're not really achieving. That's more anti-improved lives, and we're here to improve lives. So how can we deliver value to our customers and by looking and identifying waste in our systems and our processes, and how can we look at different ways that we can recycle different things that we can maybe reuse within our processes and systems, as well as also how can we run our business in a respectful way. If we're disrespecting our people, then that's not improving lives. And so we want to make sure that we're creating an environment where it's safe to fail and safe to learn. And if you think about it, if you're creating an environment where people are working out of fear, the behaviors then become where people are hiding their problems. And if we're hiding our problems, we're not going to be able to solve them. And if we're not be able to see and solve our problems, we're not going to improve as a business. And so what we've wanted to create is an environment based on this belief that all problems are because of a system or a process or a machine, not because of a person. Then we can really approach this environment of developing problem-solving skill and developing our people with problem-solving in a safe way, because now they don't have to fear and work out of fear when they say raise their hand and expose a problem, because now we celebrate our problems because we want to see those problems, and we've been able to do that because we've created that environment where it is safe to do so. And so when it comes to the people, planet, and profit, we really kind of sum that up really within that vision of improved lives. That's how we look at the 3 Ps of improving our impact on the planet and our people and our profitability for our business.
That's fantastic. It's a great way to encapsulize, how you do what you do and why you do what you do. And Jordan, I'm going to ask you, although this isn't your slide, you don't have to use the particulars of this slide, but Jordan, it seems to me I bet when you heard Landen talking, you thought of some of the things that you've said and you've put on slides in the past and you put in your reports. I think about how you kind of build a culture of improvement where you are, because similarly to US Synthetic, you're in a manufacturing, I don't know if you think of it as a problem-solving environment. How do you see guiding sustainability and engaging your fellow employees in what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so that's a great, and actually as I'm listening to Landen and reading through this slide, it's interesting. Varex Imaging's main goal is to save lives. I mean, that's our business, is X-ray technology, and in the way that it helps and benefits people, whether it's through health or safety or inspections. We are in the business to save lives. That's what we're around for. And as we work together, and the one thing that I think of with manufacturing is that there are opportunities. There's always opportunities for growth. We've tried for many, many years, and we continue to work on it, to implement a lean manufacturing system within our facilities around the world. And one of those processes is just the idea that, there's small incremental change makes large growth over a longer haul. And, you come across, maybe every once in a while, you come across a real gold nugget of a find. We've been fortunate to have a few of those where a small, simple idea that came about by involving the employees and taking their input and taking it seriously made a huge, huge impact all the way around for environment, for profit, for the people. And I like Landen's perspective on this, that as we provide people the opportunity to take care of their families, everything rolls from there. It really does. And it doesn't matter if you're here in Utah or if you're in the Philippines or in China or in the Netherlands, wherever you live. Typically, people are trying to provide and take care of their families in one way or another.
That's fascinating. Okay, Chance, if you're there, let's try the next slide. So I'm just going to use the next couple of slides here, Landen. We'll talk about this one, and the one behind it is the other one that you provided, the last one you provided. But they're both about your impact and your day of caring. So I did want both of you to talk about the accomplishments that you're proud of, and I know there are many, and you have reports and documents, but in this call, I just wanted you to call out those accomplishments in the world, making a better world that you feel best about, do you think really represent your kind of values in action? So Landon, go ahead and talk about your impact, this slide, and when you're ready, we can talk about the next slide, and then I'll ask Jordan to do for the same information. Go ahead.
Well, when it comes to, fulfilling our vision of improving lives and understanding what value that we're trying to achieve with this idea of building the world's best problem solvers in our community, it helps us kind of create some guidelines or pathways to what are some good partnerships in the community that we can leverage and maximize that impact by working together. Because we're going to go out and do what we can on our own to make whatever difference that we can in our communities. But when we can partner with other like-minded individuals, we can make that much more impact when we come together and work together. And so as you can see on the top kind of bars there, this is an example of some of the impact that we had in the year 2020 with almost 600,000 people and students that were impacted with almost 1,000 hours of service, 43% participation, and then you see some dollar donations as well in there. But I just kind of had this slide with some of the partnerships that we've connected with over the years, and that we continue to build upon those partnerships to really focus on that vision of building problem-solving capabilities in our community. And a big part of that is STEM education. So we're built upon that with our engineering, mindset here within our own technology of engineering our diamond technology. And so we love to give back and partner when it comes to this idea of STEM education. So our partnership with the STEM Action Center at the state education, and they have a big STEM fest every year, and then they have different STEM events all throughout the year. But last year, with it being with the virtual, with the virus, we partnered, and it was almost like, well, do we even still do this? Because it's been usually done historically at the big expo center in Sandy, and because of the virus, they said, well, we don't want to meet together in person. And in years past, we've had 10 to 15, sometimes 20,000 students that are able to come over a 2 or 3 day period and interact with 100 other different companies with hands-on workshops and learning on just to get them excited about STEM education. And so we got together with the groups and other businesses, and we're creative and figure out a way to do this all virtually. And so we created a kind of a website that students and teachers could access during this week, during November of last year. And they're planning on doing it again this November again as well, of doing kind of a virtual STEM experience for students and teachers. It's all free resource for students and teachers to plug into. And another one of those partnerships we have is you can see the picture of these kids on a pool with these little PVC robots. It's with the Utah Underwater Robotic Program. It's out of the Brigham Young University Engineering Department. And they provide a resource where students can plug into junior high and middle school age students as kind of their target. But for free, they can put together a team. And the challenge is they get the materials, and they get to build and design based on the materials they're given, a robot that will go underwater and do these different maneuvers to accomplish a certain task, 10 feet deep underwater in a competition that they do every year. And it's held at the Lehigh Legacy Center pool every year in March. And it's a really cool partnership that we're engaged with to help promote and get kids excited about that type of STEM education as well. And then in the bottom middle, you see the scholarship partnership that we have, the Keys to Success, with the impact that we're having with how many kids, all the high schools in the state of Utah now have access to participate in this Keys to Success program, where they get key cards for different achievements they're making throughout the school. And then ultimately, maybe win or achieve an opportunity to be awarded a scholarship. The US Synthetic, we offer one, and then there's other handful of businesses that participate with this partnership as well. But it's exciting to see help motivate these students to be actively engaged in their education with different incentives that they provide with this Keys to Success scholarship program. And then down on the bottom right, we have a great partnership with the Junior Achievement of Utah program. They're a non-government agency that helps provide resource for education to basically their vision is to empower youth to be prepared for their futures and be successful. And so they create different hands-on opportunities for students to kind of be an adult for a day, or learn different skill sets that can prepare them for the workforce of the future. And a lot of the jobs that these kids are going to get in the future don't even exist today. And so start thinking, well, what can we do to help prepare these students for jobs that don't exist? And some of the research is showing that some of the top skills that they can start learning and being exposed to and engaging with are things like problem solving, critical thinking, how to be creative, and one of the biggest ones is how to work well with others in a team setting. More often than not, we're working together with others when it comes to solving problems in our businesses and in the community. It's very rare that we're by ourselves as individuals doing those types of problem solving. So how do you interact and work well with others? And when you disagree, how do you do that in a way that you can learn from and grow together and walk through the scientific method and come through with some experiments and learn from the problem solving process. And so we have a great partnership with them. And then I guess on the opposite corners, you got top right and then bottom left is we have these partnerships with some humanitarian impact to make a difference in different remote villages throughout the world. And the mindset that we have with them is this idea, what can we do to give a hand up instead of a hand out? And so we work with them and have great discussions and trainings about some of these problem solving, self-reliant kind of workshops and skills and trainings that we can walk through to help these communities, be able to be empowered to solve their own problems. And that's really what makes a healthy community, is a community that is capable and has the skill set to solve their own problems. And so the Who Lives Village Drill stands for Water, Health, and Opportunity. With a BYU capstone project, we worked with the founder of this organization to help design and develop a man-powered kind of merry-go-round water well drill that can be disassembled and even portable as even on canoes and taken to the remote parts of the world and set up and drill, 150, 200 feet deep, find clean water that they wouldn't have been able to have access to otherwise. And so it's a great project that we've been involved with and continue to innovate and use our problem solving skill sets in partnership with them to just continue to make improvements upon this whole process. And so those are some great, I guess these are just some things that I wanted to highlight and capture to share with others, with the idea that we can make that much more impact when we work together than when we're trying to do things on our own.
Right. Well, thank you for that. And Jordan, once again, this isn't your slide, but your company's done a lot of amazing work with impact both socially, and I think some of your really strong impacts are on the environmental side. And I wondered if you wouldn't mind verbally just ticking off some of those at this point.
Sure. So we actually, 2020 was kind of a rough year for a lot of things, but I think that the charitable organizations took a hit as well as anybody. It was kind of rough to watch. We continue to have a very strong relationship with the American Cancer Society. We're very heavily involved with them in fundraising and partnering up. The breast cancer awareness, American Cancer Society does a walk every year. We do a lot with them. We have one of our facilities in the Philippines. Actually, it's kind of a funny that they actually termed it this way, that they've adopted an orphanage, and they take time every year to spend countless hours and donations, and they do a lot of work with them. They provided a fairly significant Christmas this year, or for 2020, that was not really going to happen, except that our employees were able to step in and make it happen. And then we have a few other. We're very health awareness driven. We have a couple different fun runs that we do in Germany that are typically tied to the German cancer awareness teams over there. So we spend a lot of time and energy in those arenas. We also spend a fair amount on the STEM processes here in Utah as well, providing some different scholarships, providing opportunities for a few internships now and then. 2020 was not our best year for internships just due to manpower issues and COVID concerns, but we hope to be getting back into that process at this point. So I think, Steve, that you're referring to when you're talking about our environmental stuff is some of our recycling programs. I think this last year, we're probably at about a 75 to 80% diversion rate. And a large portion of that comes from product take back that we found to be a very, not just the right thing to do, but a very profitable thing to do. And it's huge in keeping raw materials out of the ground, keeping us from taking them out of the ground, but also it allows us to utilize what we already have and reuse and repurpose and remanufacture. The world is growing more and more common now that we have a number of customers that require a certain percentage of recycled material in every product that they receive from us. So that's it's nice. We were a little bit ahead of the game on that one, and it's proven very valuable.
Are you able to, because I've seen these numbers in past years, is it okay to share the
Sure. So
dollar value of some of the recycling you've been able
to do? Our
impressive.
last year's recovery numbers, I think we were at about $22 million last year. 21 is looking to be about the same. They might be a little bit higher, but it's one of those things where the benefits for business of an X-ray tube is it will burn out. It's basically just a giant light bulb. And there's not a lot you can do to change the physics behind that. But our products are actually lasting a lot longer. And so our numbers have come down. We had a couple of years where our recovery was in the tune of $32 million. And we give our customers an incentive to return the tubes to us. Anything going to the European Union has to come back for Euro law, union law, for hazardous materials. Anything that is shipped into the country has to go back to country of origin.
Right. Thank you. And I know there's a lot more in your sustainability report, and I know we're going to talk about that toward the end. So let's, I just want to know for the record, I think, isn't it fascinating that both of you are in different fields, but you talk about health and well-being similarly, and a company that does a lot with maybe environment, a tool to support work in the environment, Artificial Diamonds, is focused a lot on their social impact, and you're a health company, Jordan, and I think it's interesting that with coaching, I think you have a very profound environmental impact, and you kind of lead your industry in some very unique ways, like with this product take back and recycling. It's a strong, and you're a health focused company, but you have strong environmental impact. So it's not a competition, it's comparing and contrasting and learning from each other. And I think it's great that different companies, similar some ways and shine other ways, but the light is just as bright. So I want to, Chance, if you're there, I want to go to the next slide briefly, and then I want to spend time on the ones after that. So this is a specific, this was just last week, wasn't it, Landen?
Yeah, that's why it was kind of on my mind, and I thought, well, let's throw and talk through some of this really quickly. But
Sure.
This just happened 2 weeks ago. It's always the week of Labor Day, and every year with the United Way, we partner with them, and it's an incredible day where we commit to shutting down our company for the day, and instead of coming to work on our diamond technology, we send and have opportunities for employees to be sent out all over the valley at different various community service projects that we partner with United Way on. And so we're at different places like manual labor, landscaping, to helping put together, robotic STEM kits, teaching our problem solving kind of little workshop to students at elementary schools. And it's just an incredible, fun day to give back to our community.
Great. Jordan, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about in this impact area. We're going to move ahead and talk about.
Let's go ahead and move forward.
Yeah, let's take the next slide then. So now we have a couple slides that Jordan's provided, And I want to use your slides, these 3 slides, Jordan, to talk about this whole issue of advice to others. People are listening in on this call saying, it's great. Look at all the sophisticated work that these 2 companies have done. And these 2 gentlemen have been involved in sustainability for 12, 13 years. My goodness, what should we do? I'm trying to get my sustainability program rolling. So if you would mind walking us through these several slides, maybe these slides one at a time. We'll have you lead, and then we'll have Landen chime in. How about that?
Sure. No, that's very easy. So, I talk to a lot of different people, and we do tours through our building on a pretty consistent basis. Again, not so much in the last year, but before that. And a lot of people always ask, well, so where do we start? Where we want to be a sustainable company, what do we start? But we're not an $800 million a year business. And how do we get to, how does it make sense for us to even push this? And the comment that I always talk to is say, pick the low hanging fruit. Every business has a place where there's probably some waste or some inefficiencies that they can focus on. For us, it was electrical consumption. We had a few areas that we were not being very smart. Our original building is really old, 1941, I want to say, and we've got 13 additions added onto that. And so some of our systems in there were really just old and inefficient. We needed to replace them anyways to do just general maintenance. But, those were bigger projects and cost a fair amount of capital that had to be spent. But a smaller business, they're going to have to replace their light bulbs eventually. Take that next step and move up to an LED instead of a fluorescent tube, and reach out to the local utility. And Rocky Mountain Power has some fantastic incentive programs, and there's a lot that can be taken advantage of. And most local utilities will pay you to use less electricity, which I think is hilariously funny, but it's true. I mean, we've received incentives. I think the last I looked at this, I want to say we're at about $1.4 million of incentive money from Rocky Mountain Power. And that's been light bulb changes, that's been thermostat setback programs, that's been higher efficiency fans in some different areas. And again, for a larger, we're 500,000 square feet of business. It seems a little overwhelming to a smaller company, but the point is, find the small things, find the low hanging fruit and take advantage of them. They're there. And sometimes we're just not paying attention to them. Waste management is the one thing. Understand where your garbage is going. It sounds like a silly thing, but a lot of people it's not on their mind. It's just, I've got to get rid of the garbage. I've got to get it out of my building. Well, we recycle, I don't know how many times, I want to say we're 90 tons of cardboard. And while the paperboard market has come down to where we're not making what we were on it, we're still not paying to get rid of it. And that's a big key. People stop and think, well, if I'm not making any money, well, that's great, but are you paying anything to get rid of it? I think that market, I hope that market's coming back. We were making about $14,000 to $15,000 a year on that. And then listen to the small ideas. The small idea, I mentioned before, the little gold nuggets. We had a machinist come to us and say, hey, we really, if you would get me a mill and a lathe, I can pull 5 or 6 different valuable parts out of an x-ray tube. Well, this was 15 years ago. And in his first year, he saved us almost $1 million. And within 3 years, they were up to the 8 and 9. And this is the number that we were talking about before, Steve, of, 4 or 5 years ago, it was $32 million. It was a lot of money. And it's more than paid for itself. It's the small ideas that tend to make the biggest difference if we pay attention to them.
Fantastic. So Landen, do you have these tips work for you? You have 2 or 3 that you like to give when people ask you how to get started?
Yeah, there's so many different ways you can kind of connect, and it can kind of get overwhelming. And I guess you want to kind of create maybe an area of focus perhaps as well, because there might be only so much impact, I guess, or resources that you can provide towards, sustainability and social impact. And so for us, with having that clear, focused vision of improving lives, and with that value of providing problem-solving skill in the community, that's kind of helped us kind of focus on, different partnerships or things that we would say yes to versus what we would say no to. And otherwise, you might find yourself saying yes to everything and find out you're getting spread too thin, perhaps. And so, kind of creating and connecting to, what's the vision or what's the purpose of our, sustainability efforts to kind of capture right now, and then I can continue to grow as well. But that's some things that have helped us.
Well, the two concepts are probably different angles on the same idea, but it's interesting. They complement. One is looking around for maybe opportunities for efficiency, waste reduction of different kinds. And then Landen, I really appreciate, because P3 is a very values-based organization. You keep going back to the well, you keep going back to what's the central idea. And if you keep going back to the beginning, it's not like you exhaust the source. It's not like you exhaust the depth of that concept and that value. You can always say, how can I make life better? How can I, and what problems do I see that are getting in the way? I think it's fantastic. So let's go to the next slide. I think Jordan has another step here in how to improve things. This is building toward the last piece that Jordan's going to share about his sustainability reporting program, which is a big deal at Varex. But let's talk about this. Landen seems to have attracted a lot of impacts, and he's counting a lot of stuff. And so talk to us about how you do tracking and reporting.
So the old concept, I mean, when we were part of Varian Medical Systems, my reporting concept was strictly environmental. It was how much electricity did we use, what was our gas usage, what was our waste numbers, that kind of thing. And occasionally they would ask for, have you taken in any projects or anything along those lines. When Varex became a standalone company 5 years ago, we had to take a different look at it and tackle it from a different angle. And one nice thing is we already had some goals in place. And the old concept of what you don't measure can't be improved. It's pretty hard to improve on something if you're not keeping track of what you're doing with it. The old concept of SMART goals, and then tracking your progress and adjust as you see necessary. We set some pretty aggressive goals for 2030. One of those was to become, we're trying to be 100% diversion rate from landfill. And sometimes we do really well with that, and sometimes we're not as good about it, but it's something we're continually working towards. And that's what a lot of people lose sight of is, well, I didn't achieve my goal. Well, you know what? That's okay. How did you do towards your goal, and what can you do to improve towards that on the next round? But this all comes down to the fact that we have customers, we have shareholders that are looking for our reports. When I put our first report together 5 years ago, I had really low expectations that it would be looked at or considered very much. But I had, I don't know, 5 or 6 very large customers reach out to me directly and ask me follow-up questions on things that we had reported on. They wanted to know, if we thought our goals were realistic. They wanted to know how we got our numbers. How did we track our numbers? Where did our numbers come from? It was very thorough, and these bigger global companies are becoming much more interested in sustainable mentality. They want to know what your plans are. I mean, that's the bottom line. Again, one of our largest customers used to be Toshiba Medical. Now it's Canon. Canon bought them out a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it's pretty consistent. I'll get a reach out email from them looking to see when our sustainability report will be published and how did we do. And in the same time, I reach out to them for information towards them as well, because we want to know how our customers are doing. So it just kind of rolls along hand in hand. Again, reporting it's not the most interesting thing that I do, but it is one of probably the more valuable and more important things that I focus on.
Great. Landon, this presentation spark any thoughts about what you're doing? You've already shared a lot of your tracking with us.
Yeah, when we go kind of back to that visual of our strategy tree and what values are we delivering to our customers, it all comes down to how can we see visually, are we winning or losing? And understanding where are we at, where do we want to be, what kind of impact do we want to have in the community, and being able to visually see that can have a big impact on what we want to focus on, what we want to work with. And I like on the bottom of the slide, this idea of corporations have customers that want to know your plans and even sometimes want to get involved. For example, we have a customer that was very active on like social media on some things that they were maybe doing in the community with like STEM education. So I reached out to him and said, hey, we're doing this big event in Utah, the STEM Fest at the Expo Center in Salt Lake, where we get like 20,000 kids come. Would you guys be interested in coming? And they flew in from Texas, one of our customers, and participated. And what that did, though, is it sparked another conversation with our engineers, where we have that partnership with the Who Lives Village Drill, the water well drill, where we donate our diamond cutters for the drill bits. But what they were doing is they were finding old, used and abused drill bits in recycling yards and trying to figure out how to get them to work and put our diamond drill bits in them. And our customer says, well, we want to get involved. We'll provide all the drill bits for this. And so it's kind of a really cool, you talk about one of our values is delivering the best relationships to our customers. And that's a direct influence that we've had with building our relationship with our customer in a direct way to give back to the community, where they provide the drill bit, we provide the diamond cutters, and together partner with a nonprofit organization to help provide clean water to people in need. And so it's neat to kind of be involved with different things, like your customers want to kind of have opportunities to be involved as well.
Great. Chance, help us with the next slide, please. So I think, Jordan, I want you to use this slide to kind of cover the concept of, this idea of evolution and shifting, and that people in sustainability work isn't a static practice. And you've given some examples of where you've shared, kind of what you're going through now and where you're going. And go ahead and tell us the story with this slide.
So yeah, it's a real simple concept, and that is in 2008, 2007 timeframe, everything was green. It was green teams, it was green everything. And the concept of greenwashing actually came out, that everybody was overwhelmed with green. And a few people kind of stepped aside and said, well, it really isn't just about environmental and saving the whales and hugging trees. There's more to it than that. And sustainability became a little bit more common phrase at that point and has stuck around a little bit longer. Sustainability reports up until, I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe, were, pretty much environmental reports with some stock information and some social information. With the concept of CSR and corporate social responsibility, is really probably the better image that a lot of companies have shifted to regarding sustainability reporting, and the fact that sustainability isn't just environmental. It is the people, planet, profit. It is, are we providing a living wage for our employees? What's the disparity between our lowest and our highest paid employee? Are we hiring equal opportunity for women? Are we actively recruiting female engineers? Are we providing opportunities for minorities? It's a much bigger picture, and it's a shift. It's not such an environmental focus anymore, and I think it's great. I think it's the direction that we should have headed a while back. At least for Varex, I think we should have headed that direction 5 or 6 years ago. In the last 2 years, we're heading more strongly in those areas. I report directly to our senior vice president of human resources, and I work very closely with our chief counsel. And one of her goals for this year is to help me convert the sustainability report to an ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. Our environmental piece is very strong. Our social side is okay. It's not great. It's not bad by any means. And our governance is probably what it needs to be as required by, SEC or whatever. But it's areas to work on and areas to focus. Again, it's just a shift in perspectives, a little bit of a paradigm shift in the way we look at sustainability, that it is a much broader scope than what it was when I started with this 12, 13 years ago.
Right. P3 Utah struggles with this, of course, too. And we go back to people, planet, and profit. Some people think that's old hat. I think we should be dealing with restoration, resiliency, regeneration, the 3 R's. I still think the 3 P's are kind of a basic grounding. So Landen, how's your sustainability culture? What language you're using? How do you focus your reporting and accountability? Is it adjusting for you going forward, or are you already in an implementation phase of your next step in the journey?
Yeah, the terminology that we use internally is engineering good, because of the engineering backbone to our business of the diamond technology and engineering that goes behind that. And so how are we able to engineer good into the community? And so the common terminology that we would relate that to would be corporate social responsibility. And but another thing that we're involved with is US Aesthetic is owned by a big corporation called Champion X, and they're under the stock exchange under CHX, and we're one of the many companies that are under their portfolio, and they have utilized us quite a bit in helping form the ESG group within the corporate model. And so we've had lots of great discussions on, what does the environmental, social, and governance look like for Champion X, using a lot of the models that we've built here at US Synthetic as a reference for that.
Fantastic. Let's go to the next slide, Chance. This is one of our last official slides. Maybe this seems a little out of order. We were talking about the report, but this is Jordan's slide, but Jordan, I want you to expand this and also talk about accountability, because you have transparency there, accountability and communication with stakeholders, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So this is tied directly hand in hand with the sustainability report, and just the fact, my former boss from a number of years ago, when we were talking one time, he said to me, so what stories are you putting into the report? And I wasn't quite sure where he was headed with that. And he said, we need people stories. If you want people to read your report, it needs to be impactful to them. And that's whether through images and pictures, but if it's just numbers and overall corporate jargon, people aren't going to read it and people aren't going to pay attention to it. The customers and the shareholders higher up, maybe, the executive committee may look at it, but if you put some real people stories in there, 2 years ago, we had one of our technicians survived cancer thanks to some of our technology. And so we put his story in and had a nice picture of him snowmobiling up in the mountains. And people read that and people paid attention. Interestingly enough, a lot of people knew the story, but many people didn't. And they didn't realize that he had been, benefited by our own products. So that was just something that was interesting. We talked a little bit already about the goals. I'm not going to go into that too much, but it's just statements. It's putting your information out there so that people can hold you responsible and accountable. Just as you were talking about before, Steve, is if you want to be accountable, people need to know what you're shooting for. And the key with that along is accurate numbers and transparency. Our numbers typically go in the direction we want them. But your credibility goes right down the tube if you don't, if you misreport or you don't show something correctly. I've used many times the old discussion of, I want to say it was well, one of our customers actually had a very high profile CEO exit and actually go on the run because he'd misreported their earnings. And they were worried about him actually committing suicide. It was a crazy situation, but his product was fine. Everything with their product was fine, but their company took a hit because they weren't transparent. They weren't honest in their dealings. One of the things we talk about in our reports is business integrity. And when I first heard that, I thought, how does that fit into a sustainability perspective? But it ties directly to the fact that if you're working honestly and you're doing the right things for the right reasons, and you're being accurate in your responses and your reporting, people will trust you. And typically your product can continue to do what it's doing, and you don't take the social image hit. So it kind of goes along with everything else.
And Landon, does this bring up anything for you in terms of accountability to stakeholders? I know it's back on your values slide. You talk about your key stakeholders.
Yeah, and we have different things that we have for reports, but this was actually, I guess you could say, a gap that when we were working with the BYU group that was walking through us with some of the sustainability impact that we're looking at together in our project, was how can we make sure that more people are aware of, the impact that we are making, and opportunities to make more impact, or opportunities to be aware of how to get involved, a call to action. Where can employees find this type of information? Or is it just, the HR group that kind of understands what's going on here in the senior leaders? But how can we create this information to be more shared across the enterprise of our organization? And so one of the great things that came out of that was the development of an impact center at our organization, which we have share past history of some pictures and photos of the impact that we're having as well. But most importantly, how do you get involved? But this is a place where employees can now go and be aware, and it's improved our participation rate in some of these partnerships that we have.
Well, thank you for that segue or transition. That's where we're going next. We don't have slides on this, but Chance, I think that's enough for the slides if you want for today. But I wanted to ask a couple other questions. We'll go back to Jordan since Landon just put this on the table here. I wanted to ask both of you for just some thoughts about what it was like to work with I know you've worked with students and you've worked with interns many times, but you both were hosts of two very special BYU teams, first of their kind. And you were two of the very first companies to have a team come in as a P3 coach team to talk about triple bottom line, the big picture of what you were doing. So Jordan, I know it's been a while, but how did it help you? Would you encourage other companies to work with this kind of team, this kind of process?
Yeah, so Steve, our team was excellent. It was a group of 4 students from BYU. They came in, they had a good plan for what they wanted to do, and basically they stepped up and asked me what would be the most benefit to help our business. And after kicking around, I don't know how many different cans we kicked down the road, we ended up on the concept of doing a sustainability survey. Something I don't have the time, bandwidth, know-how to really pull together. And we worked together for, I don't know, a month, getting the survey pulled together and how we wanted to ask the questions. They were great in the information that they decided we should focus on, where we wanted to key in on the survey. And then we were able to implement the survey. And after the survey was complete, we had actually a really good response within the company. We offered some minor incentives for people to take the survey, as just kind of get them to pay attention. You get a lot of email coming across your desk. Sometimes you have to offer free things to get people to take a survey real quick. But they took the data from the survey and gave me some really clear marching orders of things that I needed to focus on. And a lot of it tied down to just the idea that, and I think Landen may have, hinted to this concept of we have a lot of things that we're doing, and a lot of things we're doing very well. Reporting out the good news is not necessarily one of them. Company wide, a lot of people knew we had a sustainability program. They did not know the numbers per se of what was happening within the sustainability program. They did not know some of the positive, projects and things that we'd worked on. It was interesting because a lot of the times when you're in the middle of it, you feel like, well, everybody knows this. Everybody knows this information. I'm just gathering it together, but everybody already is aware. And truthfully, we have a lot of people within our business that don't know the full picture. And so that's become one of my key focus areas for the last year. Now, COVID did not help, but we're getting back on track to implement more of the suggestions that were given.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So Landen, maybe you want to go back and tell the rest of your story working with the student team.
Yeah, it was a really incredible experience, and it created some different challenges where we had to get creative because we did it all virtually. It was sad to not have them here in our facility to feel of our environment and our work environment and participate with and interact with our employees. But we did our best to try and be creative and figure out how can we do this all virtually. And I consider it an extremely success considering the circumstances that we experienced. And so, yeah, one of the great things that I think that they helped us understand was just opening our eyes to different things that, we might not have been able to see. We kind of get stuck in our own, lane and think we're doing okay. But they were able to kind of ask different questions and say, challenge us. Well, where are you at on this? Or where are you at on that? And so we found some gaps in it, specifically in more of the environmental green type, recycling type stuff in that pathway. If you think of the 3Ps, the planet side, and what can we do to be more aware of our impact on the planet and some things that we can improve upon there. But it helped us kind of highlight some things that we're doing good with our people and the profit, but also opportunities to improve upon there, specifically with how do we create more awareness when it comes to what are we actually already doing, and does the organization understand where we're at? Like what Jordan was saying with the impact that we are having, because this is my full-time role, and so I think, oh yeah, everyone knows what I know, but the reality is they don't. And so having that idea of creating an impact center was incredible to just put together a place, a physical location at our facility that can kind of highlight and capture all the impact that we're having, as well as create some discussions with employees on how can we continue to improve that impact and how do I get more involved.
I think we need to request some documentary evidence of this impact center if it's up and running. I think it's something that people in the P3 community should know about. Well, I want to just throw out one more question today. You folks have been great. And both of you kind of mentioned that you, in a way, Jordan said it more directly, but you don't, as sustainability professionals, you have a lot of work to do and don't always focus like maybe other professionals in the company do more about, I don't mean to call anybody names, but, bragging about what they do, or, and we all know it's important. If you made a financial profit, we all know it's important for someone to talk about that. But I always sense that with professionals such as yourselves, veteran sustainability leaders, you're always learning. You're probably your own worst critics. There's always more that you want to do. So the last question I have for you is, putting you on the spot, is what are one or two things that you learned from each other today? This isn't the same as, spending a whole week in each other's shoes. We probably should do an exchange program where you get to manage somebody else's sustainability program for a week. That'd be dangerous, wouldn't it? Make for reality television, I guess. But what did you hear? What did the other person say today? What did you write down or think about? Well, I got to think more about that. That was cool. Who wants to start?
I'll throw something out real fast. One of the first things that Landen said stuck in my head and is still there is just the concept of the company's overall focus of helping people or helping lives. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but I think our company as a whole loses sight of that. We're in the business of saving lives, and yet we get so caught up in the minutia of the day to day. I think that's a big piece that I'm taking away. And it's seeing his report is it's a fantastic company. It's proud that they're a Utah business.
Okay, and Landen.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. This has been great to interact with you and the group here. And one thing that I like, the takeaway that you were kind of sharing, Jordan, was this idea of starting small. You mentioned, hey, not everyone is a multi-million-dollar, organization and might have, these amazing resources to make a difference and impact. But at every level, big or small, an organization can make a difference. And it's just the value of saying, what can we do to make a little difference today, or start small and make an impact. And then from there, it can start to grow and develop. And then learning from other organizations like we are right now can help spark new ideas and partnerships. And then all of a sudden you start working together, and you have many organizations with like-minded focus that can make a huge impact for the state of Utah, as well as our nation, when we all come together and serve. So I really like that idea of just figuring out what can we do to start small somewhere.
Fantastic. Well, I know you'd love the gift of another 20 minutes of life here, not spent on Zoom. So I'll wrap it up for everybody quickly here. I want to thank Jordan Larson of Varex Imaging and Landen Garner of US Synthetic for sharing their work, their heartfelt work in making a better world through business and their companies. I just want to note for the record that P3 Utah has learned a lot from these two companies. It's not just sending a couple of intern teams recently. We have had tours of these physical facilities in the past several times. I've gone to educational events. We hope to do more of that in the future. Long may your sustainability light shine for all of us and build the beacon of social and sustainable enterprise, for Utah. And speaking of that, I also want to thank on our Zoom here, Soren Simonson, who directs the Impact Hub Salt Lake. This is another special center for developing social and sustainable enterprise that will be stronger as we, are able to do less social distancing. It's an office sharing and enterprise development center in downtown Salt Lake. And lastly, again, Chance Thompson, the designer representing VIRIDESCENT. Chance, thank you again for your time today. We'll get this online soon, and hopefully we'll see more of you, more of everybody, and more of all of our colleagues as we go forward into this year. So have a fantastic, sustainable, fun fall, and more sustainable breakthroughs for all of us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.